So I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Unlike some of y'all freaks who bookmark some of the nastiest stuff on Twitter to save for later, I try to use this Twitter bookmark feature to save ideas and thoughts that string together narratives that we can make videos about. And because there's so much material here today, I wanted to just dive into it in one particular video and talk once again about the JT Miller, ELIAS Pettersson. I was gonna say the situation, but I don't think that's really accurate to describe it. Is it really a situation, or is this just a narrative that the media is going out there and talking about? Anyways, it's been very apparent over the past few days that when ELIAS Pettersson plays his best hockey, for some reason, it tends to happen when JT Miller is not in the lineup. And also, when JT comes back, EP stops playing well, and vice versa. It's a very strange dynamic that Canucks fans have labeled out, and you're now, as a result, seeing a whole bunch of conversation and tweets talking about these two in a very particular way. Let's go back over onto Wyatt's tweet from 2 days ago. So this was before the Boston travesty yesterday. JT Miller returns, and the floodgates of whispers of dissension gets released immediately into the world to the media. This comment was made in response to the Elliotte Friedman talk, wherein he said that JT is going to have to bend, the Canucks locker room is going to have to bend, how there's already documented, I don't want to say like disdain, no, unfriendliness is probably the right word, that these guys may not necessarily like each other that much, but still, somebody's gonna have to bend. And by somebody, I mean everybody. Those were the Friedman comments from a few days ago, and Wyatt responds by saying, hey, Miller returns and all of a sudden, it gets released into the media. And because Friedman said this, and because there's been enough smoke here over the years that, yeah, it's very much now a story about can they coexist between ELIAS Pettersson and JT Miller. Even Linden versus Bure never got this spicy. The top reply from Riot Survivor says, hey, the media must be bored. And Wyatt replies saying, hey, I think they are clearly not on the same page. They've admitted they have to work hard in their relationship. It's just, how much stock do you put in a harmonious locker room being a key element of success? Not every room is going to be best buddies. And I think this is the biggest thing that you have to kind of dictate to yourself, that you have to put some sort of stock into it, but how much stock? How much stock do you put into a harmonious locker room where everybody is all buddy-buddy with everybody? How much do you care about that in building success? Do you think there's a possibility that some teams can have locker rooms that aren't all super friendly and amazing with each other and still have chances to win? Or is it a requirement in your eyes that the top players all get along and they're all best friends, etc., etc.? How much of that do you place into the evaluation of success here? What exactly are these whispers of dissension that you're referring to, Wyatt? I listened to the Friedman podcast and there was nothing controversial about it, so it must be something else. And what's with the Linden-Bure comparison? I've never heard about those two having issues. There was also talk that they didn't see eye to eye. The room had some cliques. It wasn't team-destroying, but there was definitely stuff around that. Here is another reply. This, but also, how disrespectful do you think it would be to Miller that people really believe that he doesn't get along with a teammate he's had for 5+ years? That he would desert the team and then he'd leave and take a break? Like, honestly, I'd be more annoyed that people thought that little of me. I very much firmly believe we only know like 5% of a locker room dynamics. I just think there's been enough smoke over the years for ELIAS and Miller to be a reasonable talking point. People can't jump to conclusions about Miller's leave. And I think one of the biggest things that has sparked up this entire Miller-PD thing from a few days ago was the baby comment in practice a few weeks earlier. Like, do you remember when Miller and PD apparently got into it at practice and Miller called PD a baby, and that was one of the things that Canucks media latched onto? Oh, Miller and PD got into it at practice. These guys have already documented that they're not necessarily really good friends. Oh, what does this mean for the team? And now we're seeing even more speculation and stuff from fans. Chester Ming tweeted this, anyways, I think the team probably thinks about trading Pettersson or Miller over the summer. The team seems to be sick of babysitting their relationship based off of what Satyr Shah said on Friday. Then beyond that, they have big decisions to make on Demko, Besser, and Garland this summer. They're probably going to trade Miller in the offseason, and I think the more points he puts up the rest of the season, the more likely it is that he is traded. I just refuse to believe this team would look at moving ELIAS Pettersson, said Sapp. Here is another conversation by Grady that was brought up. I want to go into this before we dive into the Satyr Shah comments that were posted on Canucks Central from earlier this week. People can play up the supposed disconnect between Miller and Pettersson all they want, but at the end of the day, both players re-signed with the Canucks knowing the other would be here long-term. As it's been noted before, you don't have to necessarily like your coworkers, but you also have to be a pro and find a way to work alongside of each other. And this, I think, also is one of the bigger aspects about it too, that they both re-signed in Vancouver long-term. Petey got that 11-6, Miller got that 8, they're both here for 8 years, 7 years, they're committed to Vancouver, and as a result, they have to, in a way, be committed to playing with each other. I don't think you're necessarily signing any sort of a contract looking at the roster and saying, oh yeah, Miller's here for 7 years until 2030 whatever, I'm not going to sign here anymore because Miller's here. Like, obviously that's going to be a part of it. You're going to have to make your bag alongside of the guys that are going to be staying long-term too. And both Petey and Miller were probably very aware that the other was going to be here, so you have to be a pro about this. You have to go out there and do what you have to do. And at the same time, that includes playing hockey and winning games. It's just very interesting how they don't seem to be able to do that at the same time. I don't get the narrative, Hughes as the GOAT says, that both of these guys can't be good at the same time. Both have had 100-point seasons, and they produced at elite levels in their times here. I haven't heard that, but having that type of 1-2 punch down the middle is what every team wishes they had. Now, to finish off this video, I wanted to go out there and talk about the Satyr Shah comments. We didn't speak about these when they were made initially on Friday, but Satyr Shah said that there is a question. Can ELIAS Pettersson and JT work long-term? We don't know, but they are trying to make it work. It's natural to reassess this, though, in the offseason. It's also possible that people have had to manage the relationship this year. It can become tiresome managing any sort of a relationship. Furthermore, Miller has asked for the leave. He wanted to do that himself. He isn't being traded right now. He hasn't asked to be traded either. Let's see how the season unfolds, and we'll see what happens in the offseason. And so, now, man, this is it. ELIAS Pettersson and JT. It's a talking point. It's a conversation. We are bringing this up in 2024, and I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below whether or not you think there is some sort of a JT trade that's going to happen in the offseason, whether or not ELIAS Pettersson is the guy instead. Do you see any sort of a possibility where EP gets moved in order to quote-unquote fix this? Or is this really just a situation where, okay, as long as ELIAS Pettersson is tolerating this, Miller stays on the team? If it gets to a point where they're fighting in practice constantly and there's this baby talk constantly, then maybe there's a trade for Miller. Who knows? But obviously this has become a thing where Canucks fans are talking about it, and I wanted to go out there, just give my 2 cents again once more. So thoughts in the comment section below about ELIAS Pettersson and JT Miller. If it were up to me, I mean, I don't really know, right? Like, I'm not in the room. I don't know these guys personally, but according to some of the insiders and people that are getting paid to cover this sport, there is enough of a conversation amongst the media that makes this talking point not nonsensical. So take with that what you will, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. How do you feel about the ELIAS Pettersson and JT Miller relationship? I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.